Today we celebrate the life of St. Jerome, priest, monk, doctor of the Church, known for his extraordinary depth of learning and translations of the Bible into Latin in the Vulgate. Besides his contributions as a church father and patronage of subsequent Catholic scholarship, Jerome is also regarded as a patron of people with difficult personalities, owing to the sometimes extreme approach which he took in articulating his scholarly opinions and the teaching of the Church. He is also notable for his devotion to the ascetic life and for his insistence on the importance of Hebrew scholarship for Christians. He was born around 340 as Eusebius Hieronymus Sophronius in present-day Croatia. Jerome received Christian instruction from his father, who sent him to Rome for instruction in rhetoric and classical literature. His youth was thus dominated by a struggle between worldly pursuits, which brought him into many types of temptation, and the inclination to a life of faith, a feeling evoked by regular trips to the Roman catacombs with his friends in the city. Baptized in 360 by Pope Liberius, Jerome traveled widely among the monastic and intellectual centers of the newly Christian empire. Upon returning to the city of his birth, following the end of a local crisis caused by the Arian heresy, he studied theology in the famous schools of Trier and worked closely with two other future saints, Chromatius and Heliodorus, who were outstanding teachers of Orthodox theology. Seeking a life more akin to the first generation of Desert Fathers, Jerome left the Adriatic and traveled east to Syria, visiting several Greek cities of civil and ecclesiastical importance. Jerome's letters vividly chronicle the temptations and trials he endured during several years as a desert hermit. Nevertheless, after his ordination by the Bishop of Antioch, Jerome opted permanently for a solitary and ascetic life in the city of Bethlehem. Jerome remained engaged both as an arbitrator and disputant of controversies in the Church, and served as spiritual father to a group of nuns who had become disciples in Rome. Rejecting pagan literature as a distraction, Jerome undertook to learn Hebrew from a Christian monk who had converted from Judaism. Somewhat unusually for a 4th century Christian priest, he also studied with Jewish rabbis, striving to maintain the connection between Hebrew language and culture and the emerging world of Greek and Latin-speaking Christianity. He became a secretary of Pope Damasus, who commissioned the Vulgate from him. Prepared by these ventures, Jerome spent 15 years translating most of the Hebrew Bible into his authoritative Latin version. His harsh temperament and biting criticisms of his intellectual opponents made him many enemies in the Church, and in Rome he was forced to leave the city. He went to Bethlehem, established a monastery, and lived the rest of his years there in study, prayer, and asceticism. He once said, "I interpret as I should, following the command of Christ, search the Scriptures, and seek and you shall find. For if, as Paul says, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God, and if the man who does not know Scripture does not know the power and wisdom of God, then ignorance of the Scriptures is ignorance of Christ." After living through both barbarian inversions of the Roman Empire and a resurgence of riots sparked by doctrinal disputes in the Church, he died in Bethlehem in the monastery in 420. St. Jerome, God bless him, 15 years translating the Bible. That's what you call dedication.